Think of the scene. The ground shakes, as if Gaul herself wants to run away from what is coming. On the horizon, it is neither storm nor rain. It's a cloud of dust created by hundreds of thousands of feet marching to the same spot. 60,000 Romans surrounded with no escape route. From the top of a wooden tower, Julius Caesar watches in silence. Below, his legionnaires line the trenches, aware that they are trapped in the center of a trap. Ahead of them, an ocean of 250,000 Gallic warriors. Advances like lightning. Behind, locked inside Alesia, another 80,000 warriors are waiting for the moment to attack from behind. 330,000 enemies, 60,000 men with Caesar. Any other general would call that suicide. Caesar calls it opportunity. Instead of retreating, he makes an unthinkable decision. He will not try to escape the siege. He will lock himself even more inside it. He will turn the abyss itself into a weapon. What he does next is not just military daring, it is the play that decides the fate of Gaul. To understand how Caesar arrived at this calculated abyss, we need to go back a few years. The Roman Republic dominates the Mediterranean, but Gaul is still a restless land of dense forests, cold fog, and proud tribes that won't take their knees. Caesar arrives there not as a simple governor, but as a man hungry for glory, wealth, and political power in Rome. Every village burned, every tribe subjugated, every river crossed by blood and iron is a rung on the ladder of his ambitions. In a few years, he devastated the region. Hundreds of thousands of Gauls killed, as many sold as slaves. Rome calls this civilization. For the Gauls, it is occupation. On the other side of this storm of steel, a feeling grows in silence. Hatred, resentment, and the desire to see the invader bleed. Gaul needs only one thing: a leader to turn pain into resistance. That leader is about to emerge, and when he does, even Caesar's name will tremble for an instant. His name is Vercingetorix. Young, charismatic, the son of an Arvanus chieftain, he understands something that few before him have understood. Rome cannot be defeated in a single battle, but it can be bled in 1,000 cuts. Instead of facing the legions in the open, he orders villages to be burned, crops destroyed, and barns abandoned. Gaul itself becomes a weapon. Better to starve for a winter than to feed the enemy forever. Caesar sees himself marching through empty lands, without food, without shelter, chasing an enemy that attacks, disappears into the fog, and reappears where least expected. In Gergovia, things collapse. High ground, steep slopes, Gauls defending their own home. The legions advance, hesitate, become disorganized. When the dust settles, hundreds of Romans lie dead on the hillside. For the first time, Caesar tastes the bitter taste of defeat in Gaul. And Vercingetorix understands. It is time to prepare the final blow. He chooses a place that looks like an impossible fortress to take. A name that history would never forget: Alesia. Alesia is not just a city on top of a hill. It is a natural fortress surrounded by steep slopes and rivers that cut through the valleys like slides of icy water. Up there, Vercingetorix gathers about 80,000 warriors, the elite of Gaul. He believes he is safe. From there, he can resist a siege, wait for reinforcements, choose the right moment to crush Caesar. The logic is simple, almost perfect. But when Caesar looks upon that hill, he sees no refuge. Sees a cage. If you manage to close the lid, you kill the heart of the Gallic resistance in one fell swoop. There is, however, a gigantic problem. Messengers have already crossed Gaul, and a relief army is on the way, bringing hundreds of thousands of warriors. Any reasonable commander would back down. Caesar decides otherwise. He will surround Alesia from the inside and armor himself from the outside at the same time. He orders the unthinkable. 2 complete rings of fortifications, one pointed towards the besieged city. The other facing the void, where the greatest human-tide Gaul has ever gathered, will soon arise. If it fails, everyone dies. The project is so insane that even its officials doubt it. 60,000 men must erect almost 40 kilometers of walls, moats and traps before the relief army arrives. Each legionnaire is a soldier, an engineer and a worker at the same time. They dig 6-meter-wide ditches, some flooded with water diverted from rivers, others filled with sharp stakes, pointed skyward like iron teeth. Behind this, they raise slopes of compacted earth, crowned by wooden palisades and towers every few meters. Between the ditches, they spread hidden traps, shallow holes with stakes camouflaged under branches, half-buried iron hooks that tear bare feet, leaning trunks with sharp points waiting in the dim light. From within the walls, Vercingetorix sees the rings close. Food starts to run out. In a desperate act, he expels old men, women, and children from the city. And Caesar makes an icy decision. He doesn't let anyone pass. The innocents are trapped between Alesia and the Roman lines, slowly dying in full view of both armies. Famine now also fights alongside Rome. When the work is over, the silence becomes heavy. The walls are ready, the traps set, the legionnaires exhausted in their positions. Then one day dust appears on the horizon. It is not an illusion. It is the Gallic relief army, 250,000 men descending across the plains, as if the land itself had decided to march. From the valleys rise war songs, drums, horns with mouths in the shape of animals. For the Gauls, it is the dawn of liberation. For the Romans, it is the day when they find out if their hands have dug their own tomb or salvation. In the Gallic camp there is fire, speeches, promises to expel Rome. In Roman lines, almost no sound, only the tinkling of metal, the scraping of sharpeners on the blades, and murmured prayers to the gods. Caesar walks on foot among his troops, remembers past victories, and tells the naked truth. There, no one has anywhere to run. Either they win, or they disappear in the mud of Gaul. When night falls, many write letters that may never be read. At dawn, the first Gallic wave will come to test every inch of that wall. The sun barely reaches the top of the hills when the Gallic horns explode in a howl of war. From the plain, a tide of painted shields and raised spears rushes toward the Roman fortifications. From Alesia, Vercingetorix throws his hungry men into the inner ring. From outside, the relief army charges against the outer ring. It's the hammer and anvil, trying to crush the same target. The first warriors disappear into camouflaged holes. Screams cut through the air as feet and legs are pierced by invisible stakes. Others stumble over fallen bodies, are pushed, crushed, trampled by those behind. In the water-filled moats, men sink under the weight of shields, while Roman arrows fall like rain. Those who arrive at the stockades find a wall of shields, spears, and gladius. 3 hours later, the field is covered with bodies, but no breach has opened. At night, the Gallic chieftains decide to try something darker, to attack in the darkness. The moon hides behind the clouds as thousands of Gauls advance in silence. No chanting, no screaming, just the muffled sound of feet on the wet grass. Suddenly, Roman trumpets set off alarms, torches light up, and night erupts in fire and steel. Bundles of branches are thrown into the pits, ladders touch the palisades, hooks try to pull out stakes. At several points, the Gauls manage to reach the top of the walls. A blind fight begins, so close that it is difficult to know who is friend or foe. Men fall screaming in the darkness, disappearing between stakes and ditches. In entire sectors, the Roman lines almost give way. Caesar rides from position to position, bringing reservations, shouting orders, appearing where the wall threatens to crumble. Gradually, at the cost of blood and exhaustion, the Gauls are pushed back out. When the sun rises, the defense resisted, but the price was terrible. And the enemy scouts discovered something that changes everything. a weak spot to the north. On the third day, the storm falls all over a single place, the northern sector near Mount Rhea, where the rugged terrain prevented deep ditches and high embankments. 60,000 chosen warriors, the Gallic elite, advanced there like a concentrated spear. Inside, Vercingetorix throws his weakened men into the inner ring, attempting to trap the legions on two fronts. The first Roman lines in the north give way. Traps are overcome, palisades climbed, defenders pushed up the hill. Panic begins to be born. If that breach opens, the whole system collapses. It is then that Caesar makes his riskiest move. He gathers his last reserve, the Germanic cavalry. He mounts his horse, raises his red robe, and personally leads the charge from the Gallic rear. The collision is brutal. Attacked from the front and back, the warriors break formation. What was progress becomes a massacre. From Alesia, Vercingetorix watches in silence as Gaul unravels in the valley. When the countryside finally falls silent, the landscape around Alesia ceases to be land and becomes a cemetery. Hundreds of thousands of bodies scattered among ditches, stakes, and mud. Inside the fortress, there is no more food, no hope. The next morning, the gates open. Vercingetorix appears. Mounted, puts on his best armor, gets off his horse before Caesar and lays sword, shield, and helmet at the enemy's feet. Gaul surrenders with him. Decades later, no one speaks Gaulish anymore. Roman roads cut through those hills. Cities spring up where once burned villages had been. The culture that fought to the limit is absorbed by the empire that won by discipline and steel. And the question remains, to what extent is such a victory glory, and to what extent is it tragedy? Alesia is not just about numbers and walls, it's about the human price of power. If this story has marked you, like, comment, and subscribe. This helps the channel to continue bringing hidden truths from Rome.